Hate to interrupt your all conversations. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Thanks for coming to learn everything that we can teach you about Convention of States and how important we think this resolution is to get it passed in Wyoming this next year. I think it's the only way that we're going to take our country back. Everybody talks about how important this election is, and it really is. But that's not the only important thing, because that's simply going to change or not change the dynamics of our country and the parties. But this resolution in Convention of States is nonpartisan, and it's the only way that we're going to take our country back and get control of what's happening with the government, no matter what party is in control. So we're going to show you and talk to you about a lot of things about what's involved in the Convention of States and what the Article 5 of the Constitution is all about. And we hope that you will sign the petition at the end of the evening, talk to other people about it, what it's all about, tell them to go to the Convention of States website, sign the petition online, and get more people involved so that we let our legislators know that we want it signed, or we want that resolution passed this next year when it goes before them, that they listen to us, the people.
So, Rick, make sure everyone knows where you're from and your full name.
I'm Rick Brownier. I live in Green River, and I'm the district captain there.
Tell them what a district captain is.
Well, I'm the organizer and in charge of leading a team in the area, getting more volunteers involved, talking to my legislators over there so that they know what's happening, getting more petitions signed in that area, and reaching out to the area around. That's why we're over here, trying to get more grassroots involvement here in Evanston in this district. Hopefully we get somebody that's as energized as I am. I've only been doing this for a little over a month. So, yeah. We had a street fair about a month ago, and I set up a booth for that, and I got 51 petitions signed in a 4-hour period that afternoon.
That was great.
So yeah, I'm energized. I really believe in the Convention of States. I've learned so much about our Constitution in this period of time, studying it, listening to presentations online from a couple different groups that talk about it. Hillsdale College has a program that they do online that's free to citizens, and I'm learning so much about it that I had no idea before. So I'm just really thrilled about what we are doing and where we're going with all of this.
Yeah, so the point is, Rick, Steve, Marlene, Rod, we're all volunteers, and Rod gets the award for coming the furthest from up by Sunday. So Marlene, tell them what you did in Rock Springs and Green River and how you're working this area down here.
Yeah.
Tell them your full name and all that.
Marlene Brady, and don't believe anything you hear. So I'm from Green River as well, and I just work the regional district. I just try to call as many people as I can that aren't assigned specifically to like Rick or other districts. And we set up a town hall in Rock Springs about a month or two ago.
A couple months ago, yeah.
And then one in Pinedale right after that, and that was really great. And so I'm just happy that we're getting so many people on board that believe in this Convention of States. And it's really good.
So these two volunteers are making it happen by engaging in the local community down here in southwest Wyoming. Rod's from up in northeast Wyoming, and Rod has been the state president since 2015?
Yeah, about 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's put on a lot of miles, and we're all here to just tell you that it's going to take volunteers just like it did in 1776 to keep our country and take it back. Rod, you want to say a few words about how you feel about this initiative?
Well, I just said this is it's all about you guys. Marlene signed up as a district captain a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I was watching kind of people coming and going and doing the things that are required and hopefully you want to do when you become a district captain. She was jumping on the phone all the time talking to people. And we had this idea, well, if people want to step up even more, at least think about doing a regional. You know, taking on more than your district, go around to the corners. Let's figure 4 corners of Wyoming because it's a big state. Marlene wasn't sure,
I didn't know it was
but
going to be on the spot.
but she did. She did say sure. She'll give it a try. That's all we ask is if you guys give it a try. Julie Baker, our grassroots coordinator statewide.
She's bomb.
She is awesome. She took my role as a district captain up in northeast up in Crook County, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to do it. I said, "We'll try it. If you don't like it, we'll just you can always back out. No big deal." She's moved up every time something comes available for volunteer. I just ask people if they want to step up. If they do, awesome. If they don't, still that's awesome. At least you're supporting it. She's now the state grassroots coordinator, and she's probably, along with Marlene,
She's amazing.
one of the
She
two
really
people
is.
that call pretty much the whole state. So it's pretty cool.
Well, like I was telling, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Like I was telling Julie, I really do feel like a Minuteman. You know, back in the day. I mean, this is so important to, you know, for we the people that, you know, be in charge of our own destiny or our own liberties, and because nobody else is looking out for it, per se.
Yep.
Certainly not the government.
So the gentleman back here asked me, why isn't this passed in Wyoming? Of all states, it's a conservative state. So I read Mark Levin's book in 2013, The Liberty Amendments, when it came out. If you guys watch Fox and Mark Levin, etc., he had this idea. And about the same time, Mark Meckler, who is now the president of Convention of States nationwide, was in the Tea Party, and he did his best with the Tea Party initiative, but he wanted to organize something that was national and that it had a grassroots base of support, because that's what you have to do in every state, because under Article 5 you have to get 2/3 of the states, which are number 34,
34.
and presently we have 15. So this has been going on since 2015, so it's growing pretty quickly. And to answer your question, in Wyoming, we first introduced the petition, which is a uniform petition that has to be introduced in every state. The language, the subject matter has to be the same in every state. And it has 3 points to it: to reduce the size of the federal government, to get the budget under control, and I'm just paraphrasing, and to have term limits. So those 3 things. So in 2015, 2017, 2019, I've been to every committee hearing during those years, and whether it's the Senate or the House, whether you have top-notch legislators and grassroots support, they come up with this idea that there's a runaway convention possibility, and this boogeyman thing just shuts them all down, because they say if it's not broken, don't fix it, don't do anything. Well, we have to do something because we have a $30 trillion debt. $30 trillion, like that for every man, woman, and child. 330 million of us, our grandchildren, we're counting them as a per capita share of that. It's like $70,000 or $80,000 per individual debt. It's immoral. In addition to that, we have a political elite, whether it's Republican or Democrat. They have good intentions. They go to Washington. They become part of the so-called swamp. And we end up spending money, whether it's a Republican or Democrat party. You'll see this movie speak to that point. In Wyoming, there's resistance to term limits because we're such a small state, and if someone like Liz Cheney is in the legislature and she's only one representative, they think, let her be there 50 years. I don't have anything against Liz Cheney. But the other side of that is, no matter how good intentions you are, or how important your name is in U.S. history, after a while, you're not in touch with the people. And we, the people, have to maintain control of our government. So in Wyoming, when we've gone to the legislature, the term limits concept has been limited in committee discussions to 3 terms in the Senate, which would be 6 times 3 is 18 years. So that's kind of where Wyoming's coming out on this. So we can tweak it in our legislature a little bit. But still, to aggregate to 2/3 of all states supporting the same subject matter under Article 5, you have to have those 3 things. Limit the budget, limit the scope and jurisdiction of the Congress, and term limits. So that's kind of the essence of what this will talk about. And this is a film that's produced by Convention of States, which is a national organization funded by volunteers and paid for by volunteers. And it will go through the history from the founding fathers to the present and what we're trying to do as present day patriots. And minute women.
Okay.
We're minute men and women.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So where do we go to find out more about this, the petition and what it involves?
We have the petition, we have information on that desk, but it's
Okay.
conventionofstates.org, correct?
.com.
.com.
And there's some business cards
Conventionofstates.org.
over there with that website on the back.
Okay, and I have one more question.
That's why we're here.
What about, okay, so term limits. Love that idea. What about if they go unopposed? What do you do if they're unopposed?
Okay, here's the deal. Without getting into the weeds too far, we don't do specific amendments.
Okay,
We have these topics, 3 basic topics. We figure the legislators are in that mode that they know exactly how to craft legislation.
okay.
So we're going to say term limits on not just politicians, appointees, including Supreme Court, including the deep state. All this stuff that seems to be going awry, it's just a meeting. The Convention of States is an amendment, it's just an amendment convention. It's just a meeting, they have no power. So we're gonna have them get together, all 50 states, and they're gonna have to craft something. There's no sense going too far right or too far left with whatever we're gonna talk about, because 38 states gotta say, yeah, that's a good idea. And if you go too far extreme either way, what's the chance of it gonna pass? It only takes 13 states, one body from each state, to do nothing, and it dies.
So,
They gotta be pretty reasonable. They gotta be very reasonable to pass 38 states.
so if Wyoming signs or adopts the resolution, both houses of the Wyoming legislature, we become one of the 2/3 states, one of the 34, and then they go into a convention of states. It's not like the Constitutional Convention, it's a convention of states under Article 5 to talk about, under these 3 subject areas, possible amendments to the Constitution. And what they adopt, those 50 states, and it's one state, one vote, which is really important, becomes the adopted potential amendments that go out to the states, and you need 38, 3/4 to pass. So
To
the
ratify
concept- To ratify it, that's the right word, thank you.
Yeah.
It operates the same way as the actual legislature right now of the US. I mean, it's just that the states.
people are doing it.
operate.
Yeah, so you'll see, when they finish the Constitutional Convention, which this is not, this is a convention of states, they said, okay, well, we have a method to amend the Constitution if 2/3 of each House of Congress decide we should. And that's the only way that the Constitution has been amended, because every time this resolution has gotten close to getting to 2/3 of the states, Congress has taken it away and done it themselves. So we, the people, have not done this yet, and we've not exercised this tool. But when they finished the Constitutional Convention, who was the guy, Rod? You know this.
George
history.
Mason.
George Mason said, yeah, but what if the federal government is the tyrant? What if the federal government is the one that's too powerful and is taking everything away from the states, which is what we have.
That's what's going on.
Washington's
Yeah.
taken everything. So this is the tool to get it back. And I can play the movie now. It's 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, 2 years ago, I petitioned my reps, and nothing really happened, with the forums that we had. But all of a sudden, we're doing it the 24th at the Roundhouse, and then the COVID thing hit, So
Right.
they were going to have something.
We'll get into
I
that.
don't know if you're aware of that. But
Yeah, we'll get into all the activism that we can get done, and you can watch the video. While we're watching that video, it's about 20 minutes. Want to thank Painted Lady Saloon.
Let's get Drew out here for a
Saloon,
second
everybody.
before we
I
forget.
remember his wife's name. You guys know Drew's wife's name? She told me that.
If you're hungry at all, help them out. They've been shut down. They're just starting to get back up after the COVID thing. So.
Can we get Drew back out here for just a second?
But it's really great that he adopted this. They're going to be closed Mondays. He opened up just for us. So I thought that was really great.
Get everybody to say thank you to Drew for providing the space here, providing the kitchen and everything. I'm going to go
should get a prime rib sandwich because they're really good.
All right, so we'll start the presentation. Write down any questions if you're thinking of them, or don't forget them, so we can answer them later.
So Rick, come on back up, and Marlene.
How you doing?
He's a district captain, Marlene's a regional person, Rod's a state director. Come and answer any questions.
Already showed it before.
First of all, I'd like to make some,
I gotta correct something. Steve was our first state director. I stepped back to do more communications and media stuff, and he is our state director. So volunteer, yes, but been doing this a long time.
Don't give up.
Don't
I
give
can't tell you
up.
how many times I've driven to Cheyenne. So. One time it was 2015, the first time we were in committee hearing in the Senate, and I was at Elk Mountain at like 4 in the morning. You know that's a special place on I-80. And my phone rang, and it was Mark Meckler, and he said, "Thank you." That's how tight-knit this is.
you got a cool talk tomorrow. Anyway, it's really important to get involved. One of the things that we do is get a chance to talk to our legislators, and that is so important. When I did this street fair, one of the things was a political road, as we called it. And a lot of our legislators were there and candidates were there, and I talked with several of them. And one of the things I found out, this resolution has gone before our legislators here in Wyoming twice and been shot down. It didn't go anywhere. I found out talking with one of our legislators that there is a very vocal anti-resolution guy up in northeast Wyoming. And he convinced everybody that this was not a good thing. I'm not going to pass his name out, but I'm sure you guys know who it is up there. But when I presented my legislator the facts on all of this, and he has voted no because of this guy before, he's kind of on the fence. I'm going to obviously sit down and talk with him more, and one of the other legislators in my district. But the point is that we need petition signers, not just over here, but in my area and in other areas, because when they see all of those signatures and say, look, the people want this. This is important to us, the people. You need to understand that it's not you, it's us, we the people that want this. And that's why getting all these signatures signed, all these petitions signed, and show this list to our legislators that they understand the people want this. And that's why we encourage these town hall meetings, you talking to other people and getting them to sign the petitions.
And something I'll add, we think about our U.S. senators or representatives, and there are a few great ones that are so supportive. Not only that, but they're great patriots, and they want what's best, and they're trying to drain the swamp, but they can't do it all by themselves, and that's why it's important for me to stay active. There's just so much swamp they got to get through, so we just want to help out as best we can on our level.
So once we've got 15 past states in all this, and nationwide, their role is not complete. They've gotten past, Wyoming hasn't. Okay, we need, 19 more states to pass the resolution. But that's not the end of the road. Now you got to come up with what are you going to talk about in the convention. So
you
then
talk about this idea. That's
you
what
talk
your
about this one. You
legislators
say,
could talk
hey,
about.
I've got a great idea from a constituent. Let's talk about this.
So we send our delegates there, we give them ideas from our state, how we want to do that, and that's what they will talk about at the convention. And we send a bunch of smart people from all these states, and they talk about, they hash this all out, and they work out the ideas on how the amendment needs to work. And that's what happens at the convention. We want to make sure that Congress has no more retirement, those kind of things.
Or the same healthcare.
I got another
There you go.
comment.
Go ahead.
Can you stand up and say it loud enough for everyone to hear? So then we're all participating. Thank you.
I don't know what that guy said in the that legislator said that northeast, or northwest was, wherever it was.
The Northeast, Gillette area.
Gillette.
I talked to my representative about it over a year ago, and he said he couldn't support it because they could add anything.
That's
And
the information.
That's not true.
That's right. That's the misinformation that's out there. And that's why we need to talk to our legislators, get them the correct information. Everybody's concerned about Congress taking over, other people taking over, the 28th Amendment information that's out there, the QAnon information that's out there. People are getting all this misinformation and not understanding what Article 5 is truly all about. And that's why we're doing these town hall meetings, educating the public, educating our legislators so they truly understand what Convention of States and Article 5 is about, so that they understand what we are, how it's going to work, and the fact that it can work.
I put in the context of, have you ever been to, let's just say, your own town, a Parks and Rec board meeting, right? It's just a meeting. They've got an itinerary. And then you stand up and say, look, I want to fix the potholes in my street. What are they going to say? Point of order. You're not on the agenda. And it's done. So the three subjects we have, and you've got them in the citizen pocketbook, you've got some documents over there, talks about our three subject areas. You're going to have 34 states that get on board to push this. What's the agenda? It's those three subjects. So if you want to talk about you're going to get rid of freedom of speech, it's not on the agenda. It just takes one person in that convention to say, point of order.
So if someone wanted something like that, they would just
They got to do their own.
resolution.
They got to get 34 states to get on board to shut down the freedom of speech. That's how it works. That's Article 5.
One other thing you can point out to them is they actually did a mock or a simulated Convention of States already. They've recorded it. It's on the website, conventionstates.com, and you can look at that. It'll take you an hour because it's all compressed. But they did it. They tried it. They had representatives, actual legislators, and lawyers and everybody attend that to show that this can work. It works the way it's supposed to. So if you've got people that doubt it, say, go to the website and look at the simulation.
We had, so they had representatives from every state, and again, it was one state, one vote per state, but 5 legislators from Wyoming went to Colonial Williamsburg to attend that simulation.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How long ago was that?
17
2 years ago.
September.
It took 2 days. They were given amendments to go over in advance. It was already.
I petitioned them, you know, I don't know if that's, maybe somebody else did too, I don't know.
Can I get a little hint? When you're going to talk to your representative, your legislator, 2 of them, state senate, state rep, you talk to them, nothing may happen. Nobody likes to be told what to do. I know I don't. I mean, you guys probably don't. When somebody gets in your face and this is what you're going to do, you're going to say, well, we'll see. But you start sending them a letter, a handwritten letter. Call them if you can, that's best. They're tough to get hold of, they're working Joes. So you send them a letter. And then another month or 2 goes by, send them another letter. How's it going with this new development here in Convention States? Another state came on board. Somebody else just endorsed this. We got such great endorsements. I don't know if the paper's out there, I'll get it up there. But we got people that have endorsed this from big hitters. David Barton from Wall Builders. Jonathan Turley, who is pretty much an Obama voting professor, is fully on board with the Convention of States. Because he says this is the only way we're going to rein in D.C. So it's nonpartisan. We got endorsements from everybody, and we can show you that. But the whole thing is it all starts with just new developments. Send another letter. I was lucky for many years. I had both of my reps, my state senator and rep, was on board. I had dialogue with them. We talked whenever we saw each other. But now I got a rep who's against it. His main thing is term limits. So he wants to quash the whole thing because he doesn't like term limits. So it's just a conversation about term limits. Nothing can happen unless it becomes reasonable. So
If you go online, as the video shows you, and fill out the petition and give me your identifying information, they have that and they'll send it electronically to your representatives by email. And just boom, like right there.
we see the support.
But if anybody wants to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I got one question on this, assuming that we get it through. Now, does it have any longevity? Is it just an annual thing, we got to do it every year?
No, it's an amendment.
Huh?
It's an amendment to the Constitution.
Okay,
No.
so then
I think this question,
You talking about the resolution?
Oh,
so what it says in the petition, I shouldn't have turned this off.
okay, if you
But it
amend the
says,
Constitution, then it has teeth in it.
yes.
Exactly.
But once that our state passes it, we don't have to approach them again.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have to, we want to. keep in
Unless they
touch.
put a horizon on it.
Well, for
Oh,
example,
okay.
you know, if you're going to put an amendment in there to balance budget, and you get it passed this year, are you gonna have to fight that thing again next year to do it?
No. If Wyoming passes a resolution supporting it, it's not limited unless they put it in the resolution. Tennessee, at first, when they passed, they put 7 years on it. And then it would fold, okay, or just die. But they would come back the next year and said, no, we don't want to limit to 7 years. So they actually passed it
Well, I can
twice.
see that argument already coming up, but, you know, we did this, but it didn't work, so we need to trash that and all. But the thing of it is who's got the power to trash it? Just the people, it's the,
The legislators, they can pass it and then they can rescind it. There's going to be a
you
big,
talked about the legislature, which House of Congress you talking about?
no, not Congress.
Congress has got nothing to do with it.
All right.
It's in the states.
See,
Okay, so it's just a legislature of 37 states?
Right, 34 states.
And whenever they decide this is what it is,
Yep.
then it becomes a permanent amendment?
Then it
No,
goes,
then
okay,
it-
you got 34 states pass the identical resolution, it's called. That goes to Congress. The clerk of Congress collects the ones that are the
Well, I don't
same.
trust Congress for
Okay,
that.
but yeah, but no, and I get that too, and that's why they did it this way. Congress shall call, if you read Article 5, Congress shall call upon the applications of 34 states. They shall call the convention. So they have no choice. They have to call, they say where and when, and they're done. The
Well,
state-
I understand if they don't call it, the states can call it anyway.
States will just ignore them then, yeah, they'll do it themselves, but they shall call it.
Okay, and what you're saying is if they don't call one, then the states can call it.
Yes,
Okay, then it still has a motion.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Paul had one.
Yeah, okay, so you've got your legislatures that approach Congress, but how receptive are our legislatures? Because they're just as swampy as Congress is.
Well, that's why the grassroots movement is so important. They would, like I say, getting hundreds of signatures to let our legislators know we want this. Like I've got over 300 in Sweetwater County alone to say, look, you need to support this. You need to sign or approve this when it comes before the legislature over there in Cheyenne when it comes up.
Did you say the states are just a small piece of the?
No, I said they're just as swampy as the
Oh.
federal government is.
Well, they can be, but they're closer to home, and you know their names.
And
you can
that's
find
what
out
I'm
where they
asking,
live.
how receptive are they?
Well, that's the point. That's why I said we need to, the grassroots movement, all of us, more district captains in the different areas where you know your legislator in your area and can approach him and talk to him, show him the signatures, get groups together, not just the district captain, but other people that you know in your area, and you go talk to your legislator in his area, not in Cheyenne, but here, and say, look, you know, explain the facts to him, take a couple of these brochures along and the signatures page to show all of these people that are signing a petition in your district here, his district, and say, we want you to sign this when it comes, pass this resolution over there in Cheyenne when it comes up.
We would appreciate that
Yeah.
you sign.
Yeah.
And I don't know
But
if
then that's true. We get passionate about it, but the best way to approach it is just establish that relationship. Oh, I'm writing to you again because whatever happened, or I really support this. We hope you're coming on board. Have you researched it? And you know how to write that. But a handwritten letter, phone call better, of course. A handwritten letter is so much better than an email. I don't know about you guys. When you get email, do you read every one you get? No. Now imagine you're supporting a whole county or House district or a Senate district. You gonna read all those emails? It depends on that subject line, doesn't it?
On the day.
It depends on the day, how busy your workload is. But yeah, so a handwritten letter, they're gonna, oh, somebody took the time to actually write this old-fashioned document. I'm gonna read this.
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What we write to one, put is, the title on it, and you can put the same text, because it's something you want to say, and just change that's what I do. And I don't know if it's still true. Maybe you have some current numbers, but whenever, I was excited to hear that Wyoming was the most active state in the union with these petitions and convention of states. I don't know if we're still up there, but it would be cool to think we are.
Per capita wise,
Per capita.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
And again,
awesome.
we're a small populated state, so that's
But
the
we're-
magic of numbers.
Yeah.
I've got a question on some, looking into the future.
Okay.
The resolution is passed. If I heard right up there, they said that the state legislatures determined the delegates.
Yes.
Their own delegates.
Okay. Question, what do you mean by their own delegates? What's their delegate pool? Is there any?
Each state is different, because this is federalism. This is what federalism is all
Right.
about. The states call the shots. So in Wyoming, we've already gotten the Loyal Delegate Act. There will be 3 representatives and 3 state senators from within the legislature. That's how we have it set up. So if you think about it, that's 6. So, but it's up to the citizens to say, look, we got a good idea here. Let's take it to the next step and figure out who's going to be delegates.
The other thing Wyoming did when this first came up is they're so afraid of this runaway convention concept that whoever the delegates are for Wyoming, if they vote outside of the authorized subject matter, it's a crime. It's a
felony, yep. And a lot of states are doing that. You don't vote the way we want you to vote within these 3 subjects.
I think that part's extreme, but at least it keeps you within the bounds.
The first thing you do is you call them back. They're no longer participating.
Right.
You revoke their commission to say you're not doing what you're supposed to, so come back. And then something would happen if they want to pursue it.
So that keeps the convention running the way it's supposed to.
I'm just curious about who the delegates
Well,
Always, yeah.
need.
that's something for us as a state to revisit, for sure.
Yeah.
If they hear from enough people, they'll support it.
So that's a good thing.
It's very activist. We have a real voice in this. Every state does. It's up to the people. It all comes down to doing what your constituents want you to do. They may or may not follow that advice, but that's what Republic is all about.
Well, they say this is a problem, this is a solution as big as the problem, because the states will take the power back from the federal government if we use this tool. And it's kind of a miracle that the Constitutional Convention founding fathers thought, what if Congress is the problem? What if our federal government is the problem? And they gave us this remedy. We just have to do it. We have to be active.
They're not to distinguish policy. And if you're a justice up for appointment or an appointment being made for the Supreme Court to become a justice, what difference does the policy make? You're supposed to do it by the Constitution. That's not policy, that's law. Okay, so but here's what's happened because nobody has come up against the fact that the Supreme Court dictates what's going on here. Five guys and gals figure out what this country's gonna do. 300,000 some million of us, five guys, and it usually comes down to one guy or gal, doesn't it? That's not how it's supposed to be. We talked about the simulation convention. They passed, I think it was 7 proposed amendments, proposals to that would normally have gone out for ratification if it had been the real deal. The biggest one to me is they abrogate federal law. That's not what the states want to happen. You can abrogate executive orders. You can abrogate Supreme Court rulings, and you could abrogate federal regulations made by people who aren't even elected, telling us what to do with the power of law.
What the Convention of States hopes to try to take care of during the Convention of States,
So
at the convention itself.
When does the
Am I wrong to
convention
assume-
happen? I'm sorry. When does the convention happen?
After 34 states have passed the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, that has to happen.
Am I wrong in assuming that judges at any level are to call balls and strikes, not reinvent the rules of the game?
Well,
Yes.
the founders designed the 3 sections of government for the Supreme Court to be the weakest power. We should not be afraid of the Supreme Court. The legislative branch is supposed to make the laws. The executive branch is supposed to sign those laws into action. That's the way it's supposed to work. Executive orders are BS. We shouldn't be concerned about those. But unfortunately, that's what's happening.
Can you see James Madison staying all year long in DC, and then the next year just keep going back and just kind of live in DC when he's supposed to be representing his people in Virginia? And yet that's what we do. We have I don't know how many days they actually work, but they're basically in DC all year long except for these breaks.
When they retire, they
They're
become
still-
high-level lobbyists, which is not a problem.
In this Convention of States, can things be addressed like district judges making laws for the entire United States?
Any ruling by a federal judge under that abrogation, you can overrule all those, 3/5 of states, or like I say, 2/3, 3/4. If you had that amendment proposed and ratified, any federal action could be done with it,
Okay.
if it doesn't make sense. I mean, if something makes sense, you're gonna leave it alone. You're gonna say, sure, that's great. But, yeah, you got a little federal judge in Seattle that decides national policy.
Exactly. And they reverse national policy. To me, that seems totally wrong. So you could address it in a forum like this.
Yeah, like I say, in that 3/5 states to abrogate any law, any rulings, regulation. To me, that's huge. That's narrowing that scope. Right now, you got the federal government telling everybody what to do, telling the states what to do. Federal government controls over 60% of the state budgets. And yet down in Cheyenne, they're having just mad matches trying to scratch out who's going to spend less, we're going to tax more. What if you got 60% more of your tax money back
Or it was never taken away from you.
to begin with? That changes everything.
Why should we take so much of our gasoline tax, send it to Washington, and then have to ask for it back to pay for our roads?
Yeah, the mine tax money that they take for restoration. We asked it back from Harry Reid, and he said no. It's like, was it $500 million or something like that? He said no, because they were broke.
when you think of the map of the US and you see the blue states on the coast and the whole rest of the nation is red, now is the time to get to 34 states and seize this moment. And we just need local help. be a
Even-
district captain or a
even-
regional
Even if we
leader.
talk to family members in another state that hasn't passed yet, I mean, we can still affect them and help them, bring them up. But I'm a big 10th Amendment fan. You know, the state should have more power. I don't know if they're just, I don't know. They just gave it away.
The Supreme Court has ruled on this, and they said basically because you've kind of given up on the state's rights of the 10th Amendment, that it stands. The 10th Amendment really is no more. Because the Supreme Court said you haven't exercised any of this stuff, so you kind of let it fall by the wayside. So to use your word, something that we can do is put teeth back in the 10th Amendment.
The 10th Amendment is the delegation class. All those powers not expressly delegated to the federal government are reserved to the people.
Yep. And it doesn't say what happens when the federal government steps over that bound, right? The Constitution is just a framework. It doesn't say what's going to happen. Well, if you get states' rights locked back into place with an override, there's your teeth. Congress did a law that's above and beyond what they're supposed to do. The states say, I don't think so. And they get rid of it. That's huge. That's a huge deal.
One of the things that it says about that is any rights that are not specifically granted to the federal government, it does not have. Well, the problem is we've ignored it, so they just keep piecemealing more back to themselves, and we've just ignored it for 150 years. Well, look where they've gotten. They own everything, and the states own almost nothing. We used to be sovereign states, and we came to the United States. That's fine, but we still should be states that stand alone with our rights that we should have also. And we need to get those rights back. And as citizens, we need to get those rights back.
And that's even encouraging our state legislators to.
Understand.
Don't be
that-
afraid, this is your job.
Yeah.
You know, it's not too big for us to do, and we're behind you.
Where did this all start? How long ago? We got 15 states.
What'd you
Where
say?
did this all start?
20.
Started in 2014.
And then you got 15 states. So,
6 years.
Okay, so the opposition and the creeping movement we're doing is we're fighting not only the hard left, the progressivist left, we're also fighting the hard right. In the 60s, liberal professors on the East Coast came up with this idea that, you know, the convention of 1787 went beyond what they were supposed to do. Now I've got in my stuff, I've got documents, every state that sent their commissioners to Philadelphia, there were only 12 that sent delegates. Rhode Island says, we're small, you guys are huge, you're going to run right over us. We don't want to be part of this. So Rhode Island sat out the whole thing. That left 12. 2 states said you have to just adjust the Articles of Confederation. You're just going to adjust that. That's all you can do. That was Massachusetts and New York. 10 states said do whatever it takes. Goodness sakes, the Union's going to blow up. New Jersey was going to attack New York because of trade wars. A regular battle between the states. That's how bad it was. And the Articles of Confederation had no power to do anything. The states had all the power. You had 13 states telling everybody what to do, but you couldn't do anything. They were afraid, get a lot of this turmoil going, here comes Britain again, which they did in 1812. So they decided, whatever we have to do, we will do. The governor of Virginia, he brought his own constitution. So did Pinckney out of South Carolina, brought his own constitution. They were ready to vote on it right there and then, in May. They say that they went beyond their powers, their authority. when they created the Constitution, because they didn't just tweak the Articles of Confederation. George Washington wasn't even going to come to the convention because he said, I'm not interested in just making alterations to what we got that doesn't work at all. He wasn't going to go. He said, I want to retire. I'm done with this. I want to just work on my farm. And he talked to me and said, no, this is not just going to tweak and change a little bit of the Articles of Confederation. They wanted a whole new government. And that's what 10 states were commissioned to do. Those professors
Did
came
you
up-
sign in?
Yes, we did. Matter of fact, we were at, in Green River with
Oh.
you the other day.
Okay.
And that's why we're here tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Have a good night.
So the professors came up with this whole progressivist kind of thing to invalidate the whole convention. Everything's just no good. Chief Justice Warren Burger had retired. He was working on the Bicentennial Commission, and he wrote down how Article 5 is dangerous. You're going to lose your Constitution. He came out and just lambasted everything. Phyllis Schlafly received a letter from him because at the time they were going to try and get a convention going to reverse Roe versus Wade. That was Burger's signature ruling. And so he come out both guns blazing and just laid low the land on Article 5. I don't know why the John Birch Society would think so highly of him, because Burger said Second Amendment is a farce. He laid down the beginnings of reparations. He thought that was a great idea. He reversed any death penalty for rapists. But you look at those platforms and those ideas. Now, why in the world would the John Birch Society, a far-right guy, think that's a man of character to listen to him? I don't get it. I just don't get it. But this is what you're going to come up against. That it was a runaway Congress, they did the Constitution illegally, and then, to add even more mystery, they say, but aren't we fortunate that it happened and we got the Constitution we got? Now, how can you be that way? How can you say this is terrible, but look how good it is?
So
This is who we're fighting, the runaway Congress, or runaway convention. And that's
limit the scope and jurisdiction of the federal government, fiscal restraint, and term limits. That's it. So whatever you authorize people from Wyoming to go do in a convention of states with 34 other states minimum coming out with a resolution, they'll come up with some themes on that. And it's the only remedy we've got. And God forbid if the socialists take over, this is our only tool. This is it. So we better get good at it fast. Right?
I agree with that.
We have any
So
other
Rick,
questions?
Marlene?
If you want to fill out those petitions tonight, I'll get them entered into the system for you.
Yeah, if you haven't already.
So the pocket guide, Rick and Marlene put this out there. It's a pocket guide
Rick
that
did.
answers
Rick did.
all the questions, and there are buttons out there, Convention of States buttons. If anyone's really interested in the details in a short, really well done book, this is what Tom Coburn wrote. Tom
That's
Coburn was a
excellent.
great senator. He just passed away from cancer, but he resigned from the Senate and went to work full time for the Convention of States. If you want this book, I'll give it to you. Otherwise, you can get it online for $10.
I paid $5 for mine, so I don't know.
$5. But if you want this, if you really care, I'll
It's
give
an
it to you.
excellent book. And then pass it on.
Yep.
Is
Anybody
anybody
else want a book?
being a deep district captain over this area will work with you and get you going? Yeah?
A book.
Oh.
careful what you raise your hand for. That's funny.
Say the last one.
I gotta go out to the car and get some
Oh.
more.
Anybody here like
Beg for it.
everybody here like the fair tax, the national sales tax, over income tax?
Oh,
No.
yeah.
It's been around a long time, and they're trying to get Congress to do a national sales tax and get rid of the IRS. Okay, not a bad idea. It doesn't go by what you earn. They shouldn't have to tax what you earn, because that's kind of repressive kind of thing. You earn too much, you tax you more.
Isn't it a step closer to the VAT tax over in?
Well, that
socialist Europe?
value added, that's different because that's on every improvement. I'm just talking about a sales tax, the end user kind of thing. Now, it's a good idea, but Congress will never do it. But that's just the kind of thinking you could talk about at a convention. One of the simulated things they got rid of in 2017 when they had that simulation, they got rid of IRS altogether. They ran out of time how to figure out what's going to replace it, but that was the first thing that I think they did. They got rid of it. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, talk about a lot of waste.
Oh, boy. We did touch on some of the red states, blue states kind of thing. One thing I want to add to that, if you craft and discuss a proposed amendment talking about the government keeping all the money at the federal level and then telling what the states can do with it, think of the states like Illinois. They're broke. Do you suppose they'd be interested in a convention proposal that talk about what the states could actually get back in the form of tax money? I think Illinois would jump on that because, like I said, they're broke. They can't even pay their retirement fees anymore. So we're getting some attention from the blue states, just on the basis of why does the federal government tell the states what to do?
But why are, and so now, why are they broke? Because they have their own beliefs and they don't
Yep.
want to look at the big picture.
Yep, and they're looking for a bailout.
Yes.
Yeah, they want the rest of
Yep.
us to pay their bills.
So if you could get traction in a blue state to say, okay, help us reduce the size of the federal government, they could get on board with that because they definitely don't like the guy in the White House now telling them what to do. If you think about it that way. So if you could find common apolitical answers that could be ratified, another potential.
Yeah, it's not
It
that
just,
difficult.
you start thinking of all the things that could happen. It's
Right.
amazing. It's just amazing what we could do.
I just sit here and it's kind of like running an HOH, which,
Homeowners?
you
HOA.
know, I used to, unfortunately, I did that. It's like herding cats. But it's got to be really organized. This is not easy. Because you're going against the scare tactics, the New World Order people.
All we're
There's a lot of
trying
obstacles.
to, you saw the book.
Oh.
I showed this to Paul earlier. This is that book you talked about. It's 2,800 pages. This is the Constitution. You've all got your pocket one. This is what the Supreme Court has done to our Constitution to explain it for us so we can all understand. Anytime
Oh, he
they-
thinks we can understand. This was written back then so a farmer could understand it.
Eighth grade
Well,
education.
they've all put their own interpretation into, they've read into it, and it's not what the founding fathers wanted.
No.
But
the
it's
Constitution.
it's still the law. It's still constitutional law. And if you try and say, no, it's not, because it wasn't ratified, you go against Obamacare, you go against anything that they've ruled is constitutional, and you go against that, you end up in jail.
Yeah.
So people can say it's not ratified, that's not true. It's the reality of what we're dealing with.
Right, and that's what, we've tried to be the bigger people for so long, that now they've taken advantage of us, and now we have unintentionally given things away.
Sure. What you got?
If I could just make one kind of thing from, I'm Rick's wife, I'm Amy from Green River, and he gets up in the morning and I'll hear him listening to stuff on the computer, and I love you, honey, dearly, but he has to have.
Yeah, the living room and the bedroom are
loud-
connected. They're not soundproof.
So anything that he's listening to, I get to listen to. And it has been fascinating to learn about the Constitution, about what the founding fathers did, and you know what, and that's really something too that if you want to be able to support the Convention of States, which we really hope you all do, you need to understand the Constitution. Most people don't have any clue, like Rick said he didn't. The most important thing you can do is really support the Constitution of States. Spread the word, like I say, to your families anywhere in the United States, because once we get one done and we put limits on Washington and say, hey, this is what you're going to do. Once we have one done and the people see what power it has, how hard do you think it's going to be to get the next one going?
What do you mean the next one? The next state, you mean?
The next convention of states.
Oh.
It should be regular.
Because you can bet that once this gets done, people are going to say, well, then we need to think about this subject. And when we go to these different states and say, well, okay, we did that. Now this is what's coming back from the people to us. They're going to be hopping on board because they're going to realize that this truly is a way that we can make changes, and we can make changes that are going to stick. Congress can't go back and say, oh, we're going to outlaw the Convention of States and anything. They can't do that, okay?
Right.
So support this. Spread the word. Learn about the Constitution. Sign the petitions. And just stick with term limits, fiscal responsibility, and government overreach. Like they say, the best thing that you can give an example of here in Wyoming, the overreach, is the government, the EPA saying that you can't mine coal. Okay? You got to put it where people are going to understand. That's government overreach. The EPA is not elected. Okay? So use what people are going to understand. Talk up the Convention of States. Make sure they understand exactly what it is. This is not a constitutional convention. It is a convention of states. Learn about Article 5, study it, and push it. And let's get this done.
Well, Gary, we had this going the 24th of March, didn't we? When you're representative, you and Wendy, we had this going the 24th, right?
In March?
Yes,
Oh.
but that's
Oh, a meeting?
all this
A
stuff.
town hall?
Isn't that right, Gary?
That's where I remember right now, so it's fuzzy right now.
Are you talking about a town hall?
Okay.
A town hall like this?
Well, we had a meeting of the Convention of States at the Roundhouse with our
Oh, the brown
legislators
house. Oh, gotcha.
leading. But it was the 24th. But, all of this stuff hit.
If anyone is filling out the petition, educate them what to do with it. If you're going to fill it out by hand, he asked a very good question.
Well, I would suggest that you take it home with you because there's a lot to do on both sides of it. And then on the bottom, the very bottom of it here is an address to where to send it to.
Well, like I say, if you just get it, I'll enter it for you.
I get that. Facebook is good that way because you can just put a couple things.
Immediate.
You did your part. Liking it, sharing it. Sharing it is how things go viral. You can get 1 million likes, but you may not get 1 million posts
Right?
or shares. Convention of States, Wyoming. There you go. Yep. And you can message me through there too. That's
Any more questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks, Marlene and Rick and Rod, for all you're doing.
Yes, thank you for
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for the burger.
okay. Mind you.
Did everyone get a copy of the petition?
I didn't, yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't already signed it.
Take one of
And if you haven't signed in, make sure you sign in on that brown desk at the front there.
If you have any questions that you think of later, contact one of us and we'll help out all we can. There's a lot, it's a big apple to chew on, that's for sure.
And if you guys do sign up, we'll follow up with you to see if you have any questions or how we can help or if you have ideas.
Make sure you take my business card, so if you need to call me.
Good and good.
Thank you.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.